Hey, hey.
Hey, hey.
It's spring break, y'all. What?
Whoop, whoop.
Party.
What's up?
Let's do keg stands and fuck. You know what? I didn't do that shit when I was young.
Me neither. I would have died.
I would have literally died. Literally. I would have literally died. I would have like choked all over the place, all over everybody. All right, everybody. Welcome to another week of Case Files with Kat
and Ashley.
Awesome. We made it.
Yes, we did.
I'm not going to say like how well we're making it, but we made it. I took the kids today to go play pickleball.
Oh, yeah?
And they took the two little twins that Olivia hangs out with, and they all had a horrible time.
Oh, no. Why?
Because they weren't happy just playing improperly. You know how like they don't know how to play. They can barely get it across the court.
Well, I don't know how to play either.
They were just having they're just having a good time. But then they're like, well, we want to start taking score. And I'm like, none of us know how to take score. So we grabbed one of the workers and he started like, okay, well, here, let me show you how to do it. And so he starts trying to tell them like how to teach them how to serve and how to take score. Well, they couldn't get the serve down. And so they just kept like, this sucks.
Oh,
so they were all bummed out. And I'm like, just go back.
You should have just made scores up, Kat.
Just go back to the not keeping score time, but they're so competitive. These high functioning girls are so competitive. And I'm just like, God, and there's Anderson, like, can we just play? So, yeah. I was like, oh my God.
Children sound great. They sound like so fun.
So much fun. I was like, is it too early to drink? Oh God. I was like, my stepmother-in-law was there, so I was like, oh, I can't get a beer right now.
Oh, man.
It's too early in the morning. It's never too early. I know, even another reason.
Yeah.
So, how was your day? Your week?
Well, it's fine. Nothing terrible has happened. I mean, I don't know.
No child telling you that your arms are flappy like bats.
No children telling me my arms are flappy. No children getting upset really at me for anything. I mean, the only children I deal with on a day-to-day basis are my nieces, and they love me. So
because you're cool aunt.
I'm the aunt. I get to like see them a couple times a year, and I'm the fun. I bring gifts and stuff, and I'm great. And then I go home, and then sometimes we FaceTime. But yeah, so that's that.
Whatever. Life must be great.
Yeah. Going to the rodeo tomorrow.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Rodeo. Yep, I'm not doing that.
I mean, I could talk like this the whole episode.
Please don't. We're gonna
do my whole next story.
Okay, you say that. You've said that before.
I know I did, but I changed my mind.
Stop it right now. All right. So I'm just gonna get into it.
Oh, okay then.
We're gonna go to 1970s.
Oh shit,
Hollywood.
That's before my time.
Fuck you.
See, it's not my story, guys. So like, I'm drinking and I'm having a good time. So. My apologies.
You're a jerk. Okay. All right. So here we go.
Yeah. I'm supposed to sit back.
Just sit back. Sit back and let me tell you a tale. Let me regale you with this tale. So, okay. So tonight's story, a little background. It's a story that I had heard about. So this isn't something like that was brand new to me, but I didn't know the story. And you might have heard about it. You might recognize maybe a little bit, bits and pieces, or you might really know the story, but I don't know. But anyway, I decided once I started to learn about it, like, wow, this is a really crazy sordid tale. So I wanted to bring it here and to share it with all of you tonight. So I'm talking about the life and eventual death of the Playmate of the Year for 1980, Dorothy Hoogstratten.
Okay.
Do you know the story?
Okay. I don't think so.
Well, it seems kind of like, you kind of have an idea, I bet, on like
sure
who did it. And yeah, I'm sure it's not it doesn't take a lot of, rocket scientists to figure that one out, but it all takes place in such a short time that so this doesn't happen. This life that happened to her, like that, this doesn't happen for a lot of people, especially aspiring actors or models or anything like that. So like this, it all happens in a period of like 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Like the whole thing.
Yeah.
So she goes from, zero to hero in a very short amount of time, right? Anyway, so let's just start at the beginning of Dorothy's life, shall we? All right. So Dorothy Stratten entered the world at Grace Maternity Hospital in Vancouver, British Columbia on February 28th, 1960. Her parents were Simon and Nellie Hoogstratten.
Ooh, what an interesting name.
Hoogstratten. Hoogstraten, had relocated from the Netherlands, and the family expanded with the birth of her brother John in 1961 and her sister Louise in May of 1968. Okay. Her father, Simon, though, left the family when Dorothy was about 3 years old. And so single mom, raising 3 kids, she's taking on multiple jobs. And so as Dorothy got to be older in this, small little town, she started working at the Dairy Queen her freshman year and worked all the way through high school to help her mom make ends meet. So all around good kid, right? Yeah. In an interview later, she said she wore pigtails and no makeup to work every day. Oh, and she had no idea how beautiful she was at all. Like just had no idea. Her sister Louise actually said in an interview in a 2020 special, you'll hear a little bit of not that interview, but from that special about Dorothy, that Dorothy was actually picked on in school because she had, wait for it, full lips.
What a horrible thing.
That was some jealous ass bitches. Yeah.
Like of all things, like, I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
That people make fun of nowadays, but just like, I feel like no matter what, you're going to be made fun of. But like, what a weird thing.
What a weird
full
thing.
Full lips.
Not even like unnaturally full. Yeah. It wasn't like crazy wide lips. Like she just had she was just beautiful.
Yeah.
Just beautiful. And so it's like, oh, come on. That was some jealous bitches. All right. Calling teenagers bitches. Anyway,
hey, it is what it is.
They were just jealous. Don't hate, congratulate. Anyway, she was so pretty. And then she got these like big, perfect, full breasts on her skinny little frame. Like her Playboy stats said she was 5'9" and 123 pounds, but she had huge boobs. And I'm like, that was all the 123 pounds. Like, wow. Like crazy. So she just didn't know what to do with herself. She's in this small town in British Columbia working at a Dairy Queen with pigtails. Anyway, so that's when enter in the 26-year-old sleazy hustler by the name of Paul Snider walks into the Dairy Queen one day. And Paul was born Paul Leslie Snider on April 15th, 1951 in Vancouver. And by the mid-1970s, he was a nightclub promoter and a pimp.
Oh, nice.
As one does.
How diverse.
I know. So this is actually from, I love the way that it looks. It's from the Village Voice. And I'm just going to turn this around so you can see. But it's like the actual like PDF of the print of like the story. And so I'm going to read you a little bit about the pimp. Okay. It is not so difficult to see why Snider became an embarrassment. Since the murder, he has been excoriated by Hefner and others as a cheap hustler, but such moral indignation always rings a little false in Hollywood. Snider's main sin was that he lacked scope. Snider grew up in Vancouver's East End, a tough area of the city steeped in machismo. His parents split up when he was a boy, and he had to fend for himself from the time that he quit school in the 7th grade. Embarrassed by being skinny, he took up bodybuilding in his late teens and within a year had fleshed out his upper torso. His dark hair and mustache were groomed impeccably, and women on the nightclub circuit found him attractive. The two things it seemed he could never get enough of were women and money. For a time, he was the successful promoter of automobile and cycle shows at the Pacific National Exhibition, but legitimate enterprises didn't bring him enough to support his expensive tastes, and he took to procuring. He wore mink, drove a black Corvette, and flaunted a bejeweled Star of David around his neck.
How humble.
About town, he was known as the Jewish pimp. And
I'm sorry.
I know. Yes. And he straight up, like the shirt open, and the whole thing. Among the heavy gang types in Vancouver, the rounder crowd, Paul Snider was regarded with scorn. A punk who always seemed to be missing the big score. He never touched the drug trade, said one rounder who knew him then. Nobody trusted him that much, and he was scared to death of drugs. He finally lost a lot of money to loan sharks, and the rounder crowd hung him by his ankles from the 30th floor of a hotel. He had to leave town. Snider split for Los Angeles, where he acquired a gold limousine and worked his girls on the fringes of Beverly Hills. He was enamored of Hollywood's dated appeal and styled his girls to conform with the 1950s notion of glamour. He was stuck in the 70s, so, At various times, he toyed with the idea of becoming a star or perhaps even a director or a producer. He tried to pry his way into powerful circles, but without much success. At length, he gave up pimping because the girls weren't bringing him enough income. One had stolen items and had in fact cost him money. And when he returned to Vancouver sometime in 1977, Snider resolved to keep straight. For one thing, he was terrified of going to jail. He would kill himself, he once told a girl, before he would go to jail.
That's a little extreme, but all right.
So then that's when he enters into that Dairy Queen. So this guy who, like, if you looked him up right now on your phone, you'd probably see, like, he's not a bad looking guy at all, but very much so in the vein a la, like, here's, I don't know, I guess he took this picture of himself. But look at that package.
Yeah.
But he looked like John Travolta from Saturday Night Fever, right? The black shirt open and the thing, and he's got the long mink coat, and he's got the hats on, and he looks like a caricature of a pimp. It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the big, huge Star of
Yes.
David, all bejeweled and everything, just looks ridiculous. Anyway, so he took one look at 17-year-old 18-ish, almost 18-year-old Dorothy, and he knew he could make money off of her, but not as a sex worker. No, she was too good for that.
She is so pretty. I just looked up her. She is like just naturally
gorgeous.
So gorgeous.
So all of those pictures are her between the ages of 18 and 20, which is insane. Like, she's gorgeous. She could have been Marilyn, a next Marilyn. So as one observer put it, she was quote unquote class merchandise. Ugh. So he wasn't gonna pimp her out. He had bigger dreams for her. So he saw her as a way to get in good with the king of Playboy, Hugh Hefner, who he regarded in very high esteem. Surrounded by women. Yes, please. Right. So Dorothy wasn't the first or the last girl that he tried to make a playmate, but she was the only one that succeeded. Like I said, when they met, she was still a senior in high school and was a bit, let's say, inexperienced in the ways of the world, not naive, just green. Right. Yeah. Everyone kind of really goes out of their way not to call her naive, because I guess that's rude. She's just not
she's
cynical.
From a small town.
Yeah.
So, it's not far-fetched to think that she didn't, I don't know, think of men like that. Like that people would be using her and stuff.
Yeah. And right. You get the idea.
Yeah.
You get the idea.
Like, you just assume people are good people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you're not cynical. You're not like looking at everybody like, what's your angle?
Yeah.
Right. And, and so here's this guy who's older. He's not bad looking. He looks cool, drives a cool car. He's coming in and telling you how fucking beautiful you are. And he's showering you with all this attention. And he's like, oh yeah, he knows exactly what he's doing. He found some girl who was prime for the grooming, and grooming is what he did. And she didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Like she didn't have a dad.
Yeah.
And here's this guy giving her shit, saying all these nice things, telling her that he can take her away from all of this and give her a life. She had no aspirations other than like becoming a secretary.
Yeah.
That was her life. And she was going to be in this small town working at the Dairy Queen until that happened. And so here comes this knight in shining Corvette and, taking with her Star of David, just the Jewish pimp. Anyway, he bought her clothes. He bought her jewelry. He even bought her the dress that she wore to prom. And he took her to prom. This 26-year-old man took this 17.
Times have changed because at my prom, you had to be in the high school.
That is how it should be, Ashley.
I know. I'm just saying, like, it's crazy, like, that anybody used to just be able to go.
No 26-year-old man should be taking his underage child.
Yeah. Well, that
date,
too. I just mean, like, I'm just shocked, like, that was ever that they ever even allowed that.
Yeah, that's just creepy. Anyway, so he bought her this dress, and then right after prom, they went to do a photo shoot of them, like it was going to be of her in that dress because it was a very flattering dress. And then, but he had to be in it, so it was like this picture. It's kind of
Weird, but okay.
Like showing a kind of ownership of her,
Yeah.
like I found her, right? And so he's already laying it on thick about like, you could be the next Playboy model, Playmate. She was so beautiful, and I just take some pictures and blah, 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 blah. She really, she said no. A lot of it was like, I don't want my mom to get upset. She's not going to approve this and that and the third. And he was like love bombing her. Oh. And so finally he convinced her. And so about a month after prom, he calls up a photographer. He says, okay, come back. We're going to do this photo shoot. And so they finally did this nude photo shoot that he was going to send into Playboy for the Great Playmate Hunt for their 25th anniversary in 1978. So those photos earned that photographer $1,000 finder's fee for that. Wow. For finding her, because as soon as they got that picture of her, someone calls us. I need her on the next plane. Oh, so wow. This is from the 2020 episode called "Death of a Playmate," and I am going to. And you're gonna hear her speak, but you're also gonna hear the person saying like, "I got her on the next plane," and she was the one that was like, she actually worked for HEF for 43 years. She was like, you kind of knew right away if somebody was going to make it or not. And she was like, this girl's going to make it. Anyway, so here it is.
He sent me the pictures and I called up and said, when could she be ready to come down? I wanted her on the next plane.
That was a big day for me. They flew me out that Sunday, the first time I was on an airplane.
I don't think she said much. She listened to me. I explained the whole thing. We'll test her. We'll send her home. We'll let her know.
And they did test shootings with me that same day. They brought me up to Hefner's mansion that same day.
I introduced her to people. She relaxed a little, but not a lot.
It was very exciting, very nerve-wracking.
And she came in the next morning, wobbly, ready to go. I thought, wow.
So how do you do a nude layout? Do you just walk into a room, take off all your clothes? I mean, do they work up to gradually? Take a few shots with just like a bare chest and then work up to a nude shot? Or how do they do it? How do they make you feel comfortable?
Depending on each individual girl and how nervous she is.
Were you nervous?
Yes, very.
I think even when her pictures first came in, they knew right away because she came right back to the mansion and they shot her very quickly. And it all happened very fast for Dorothy.
I worked for Playboy for 43 years. It was pretty easy to know if a girl was going to make it or not.
Luminescent, angelic. She lit up her room. All the corny phrases were true about Dorothy.
So that was Hugh Hefner there at the end. All the corny phrases. So it was like instant.
Yeah.
They saw her and that was it. So in August of 1978, Dorothy boarded a plane for her first test shots in LA. She was so nervous. But like that lady said, Marilyn Grabowski was who that was. She was the one that's like, this is how it's going to be. We're going to get there. You're going to go to a party. You're going to meet everybody, blah, blah, blah. So she said, you know, man, like she was so nervous. She never really let her guard down. And by the next day she was ready. She was still nervous, but as soon as they saw those test shots, she solidified her spot next to Hef. So she wasn't chosen to be the special playmate. In 1979, she lost out to Candy Loving, her real name. By August, isn't that funny? Candace Loving. Candy. Nice. Candy Loving. By August 1979, she was Playmate of the Month. So all very, very quick.
Yeah.
I mean, bam, bam, bam. Like a year.
Yeah.
This has all been a year. The Playboy organization changed her last name from Hoogstratten because it doesn't really roll off the tongue to just Dorothy Stratton, and saw to everything from her acne, because she had a little bit on her forehead, and her daily exercises.
All right.
Oh, no. Kind of crazy. And since she was Canadian, she needed to get a work visa to be in LA. So they helped her do that. And guess who came along with her? Well, Paul Snider, of course.
You don't say.
I know. After all, she owed him her success, right? Not.
I mean, Avi.
So he might have gotten her to take some photos and send them into Playboy, but it wasn't his horrendous personality that got her the gig. She did that all by herself. Still, he convinced her that she owed him, and she agreed. So she had a lot of gratitude towards him, and I guess felt beholden to that gratitude to help him. Anyway, so Snider and Stratten moved to LA, and they married on June 1st in Vegas in 1979, much to the chagrin of fellow playmates and friends and the Hef himself. She had like went to him and said, "Hey, I'm going to marry Paul." And she kind of went to him like a dad, how, like, "Hey, I'm going to do this." And he tried to steer her in another direction. Like, dude, I don't really like that guy.
I mean, but can you really take his advice? You know what I mean?
Right. And he understood that he was in a difficult position. He wasn't her dad, and he couldn't tell her what to do, but he was like, "You're obviously telling me because," and so here's the thing. I'll get to it again later, but Hef did not like Paul. Nobody did.
Yeah.
Like nobody did. The way that he looked and dressed, like, okay, that was cool 2 years ago. No one's doing the open shirt, right? You know, and no one's doing that anymore. He never got out of it. And he was like, just
the way
always
he
hustling.
made her feel like she owed him something when it was her body.
Control. Like, I don't think that he really loved her. I think it was a controlling, like, you're my meal ticket, you're my property. Sorry, where was I? Oh, yeah. So Dorothy, with her new work visa, began working as a bunny at the Playboy Club in Century City. So she actually wasn't old enough to serve alcohol, but she could be like like a hostess, like to take you to the table and set you up and all that kind of stuff. And so she's still like in the bunny outfit, and all that kind of stuff. But Hugh Hefner did have high hopes for her, and he really saw her as being able to do like a crossover into the acting realm and to be something more than just a playmate. So she actually started getting on TV. She featured in episodes of Buck Rogers and Fantasy Island in 1979. Again, remember how fast this is.
Yeah.
It's only been like less than 2 years since she met Paul Snider, right? Also that year, she had small roles in the films Americathon, the roller disco comedy Skate Town USA, and had a lead in the role called Autumn Born, that were all released in 1979. Actually, I don't know if Autumn Born actually was released because it was about a girl in bondage. I don't know that they actually released that.
Interesting.
She played like a rich teenager who's tied up and stuff like that. Anyway, so Hefner was actually told by Playboy employees that Stratten should cut her ties with Snider, and like that he he made girls uncomfortable. In a documentary about Dorothy, he's on screen saying that he tried to warn her about Paul, but that he was in a tough position. So as Dorothy's star grew, so did the dollar signs in Paul's eyes, and everybody could sort of see that. He would say, "We're on a rocket ship to the moon." Like we're making it. We're going to do it. We're unstoppable. We have this bargain, lifelong bargain. Bargain is what he called it, a life bargain. It's like we, insert eye roll here. Like, ugh, come on, dude.
Yeah.
What are you doing exactly?
Yeah, was he doing anything else besides just
being a pain in the ass? No, like he was like her manager / agent / who the hell knows what you are, but he was in the way, like he was trying to tell her, she had to call him all the time and he wanted to be on the set all the time, but he made people uncomfortable. And so he was like barred from things because of that. Like I said, everyone hated Paul, or they at least thought he was a slime ball. He was always hustling. Always be hustling, as they say. Every time he went to the Playboy mansion, he was trying to get attention and get time with Hugh Hefner and like hit him up on some new business venture, or like try to say like, hey, I met this new girl. She could be a playmate. I did it once. I could do it again. But like Hefner was never impressed. He would say that he was just a pimp, which was a real insult.
Yeah.
To like that for Hefner, that was like a real insult. I don't know like how he saw himself any differently, but anyway, he would be polite, he would interact, roll his eyes internally, and then like get away as soon as possible. So as Dorothy got more and more gigs, she was at the mansion more and more, and Paul was exiled because security guards caught him making out with another playmate.
Oh shit.
Dude, you literally have the most beautiful woman in the room.
That doesn't matter
as your date wife. And you're making out with this other woman. Anyway, so they kicked him out and they said, you can't come back unless you're with Dorothy. And then even then, so she was allowed to come. So she actually hung out at the mansion a lot without Paul there. He was not classy.
But she stayed with him, though.
She stayed with him because she owed him.
Sorry, I got a visitor while you were speaking.
Oh, I'm glad he's up. So that's funny. All right. So while she spent time at the mansion, she met a lot of the regulars, and one in particular took a real shine to her. The director, Peter Bogdanovich, known for The Last Picture Show, Paper Moon, 1971, 1973. Anyway, he met her and knew she was someone special. The thing is that he had just left his wife for Sybil Shepherd. So, the new young it girl, and then he meets Dorothy Stratton, another young new it girl. Anyway, but he knew that she wasn't the typical playmate. So she was green, but like we said, like LA hadn't made a cynic out of her. And unlike Marilyn Monroe, the sexuality of it wasn't a negative thing. She was like, okay, so I'm a sex symbol, and okay. Yeah. Like she didn't know enough to have all the negative connotations with it. She was like, all right, like that's what it is. Paul had taught her how to what's the word? How to turn down guys who were hitting on her without hurting their feelings. So she got
how nice of him.
So got really good. Like, here's how, so that you're not alienating them. You're not making, so they don't get angry at you, so that you get jobs. You know what I mean? So like, you don't have to get on the casting couch, basically. But you do have to sleep with Hugh Hefner if he wants you to. That was kind of that was kind of the thing. But anyway, so she was sexual. She was smart. She was so nice. She looked like the girl next door. What wasn't there for him to fall for? Like really, he just she had everything. Yeah. So Peter Bogdanovich had her audition for him for his new feature called They All Laughed. like that great cast. She was going to play Audrey with Audrey Hepburn. John Ritter is in the movie.
Wow.
Like, so like huge cast, amazing cast. And so he cast her, and she was finally in the big leagues. She did it. We did it. And so that was something, you know, Hef always wanted, a Playmate to become legitimate. I couldn't think of a better word, but she became legitimate. She made it. She broke the mold. So all of these Hollywood elite types would come and they would party at the Hollywood, at the Playboy mansion. They'd come, they'd hang out with the Playmates, with him, but they weren't casting them. He wasn't seen as like a star maker, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like he sort of, Hefner sort of existed in the fringes while at the same time being in the center of this industry, which I thought was so strange. But like he was surrounded by all of these women who were, they're pigeonholed into just their Playmates. They're in Playboy and that's it.
Yeah.
You're not being interviewed on for People magazine. You're not on talk shows. You're not in movies. You're not like, she was everywhere all the time. Right. And so he was like, we finally found the it girl for him. And such a strange dichotomy. Anyway, on March 22nd, 1980, Dorothy embarked on a journey to New York City to start filming for They All Laughed. And so this marked her 5th venture in the film industry, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Especially in such a short time frame.
Such a short time. This is all March 80. So they met in 77. Like, this is crazy. It also marked her debut in a major budget production, portraying the role of the unhappily married love interest opposite John Ritter, one of the film's leading actors. Okay, so actually Bogdanovich revealed in an interview that he drew inspiration for Stratten's character from insights gained about her marriage to Paul. Bum, bum, bum. And then during the film's production, Stratten and Bogdanovich initiated a romantic affair.
Oh, shit.
Who didn't see that coming? So prior to the New York venture, she had spent the initial months of 1980 wrapping up her Playmate of the Year commitments and filming her preceding movie, Galaxina, in Southern California. Galaxina looks really funny, and I'm going to see if I can find it, but I want to see it. So throughout this time, she took on... Paul took on various roles. He was an acting chauffeur. He was a pseudo manager / agent. He was even her acting coach. You were asking what he was doing. He wasn't really an acting coach, but he was he was just constantly there. And so he was constantly critiquing and getting in arguments with her. Like, it was causing her so much anxiety that she had to start taking like Valium. Like he just,
I feel like she was so busy all the time. And then to have him like over her shoulder constantly, I feel like I would have murdered him. I feel like I would be in prison if I was.
But everybody could see it. Everybody's like, dude, that's why he was like, he can't come on set. He's too much. He's too much. Did you watch Schitt's Creek?
Yes. Okay.
Remember when Moira gets the gig working to do the commercial at the winery and she just gets hammered because her husband is just like on her, like, no, don't do that. Don't eat that. Don't do this. And it's like, oh, like,
like beforehand.
Like, so then she just fucks it up. And then everyone's like, well, you need to just get off set, you know? And he's like, what? I'm just trying to help. It's like, it's just like that. Like, you're making things so much worse. So she starts taking Valium, not like a lot, just like, it's just getting to be too much. And it's mainly because of him. So as the spring of 1980 approached, Snider insisted on accompanying Stratten to New York to begin the filming of They All Laughed, but she was like, no, you know what? It's a closed set, just the cast and crew.
Good for her.
But it was true because Peter was like, nah, he's not coming.
Yeah.
It's closed set.
I mean, you know, he could have still gone, but good for her for putting her foot down, even though she was having an affair. So,
well, it didn't start, right? It wasn't.
Okay.
It hadn't started yet.
Okay. Well, anyways, good for her for putting her foot down.
But she convinced him to stay in LA, saying, you know, the director, don't ruin this for me, you know, that kind of thing. But Paul started to figure out something was up because Dorothy stopped saying, I love you on the phone. This was actually like documented. Like he was like, she's not saying I love you anymore. And you know, when a woman stops saying I love you, it's bad news. That's it. Like, pack it up.
He said this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He was very open about all of this. They actually, I talk about her a little bit later, but he found another Dorothy 2.0, a young girl, and he was like just a mess around her. Like, I love her so much, and so she's a teenager going, maybe you just need to let her go. Let her go, and maybe if she comes back, it's because she, like, this teenager is giving this grown-ass man advice, like, you need to let her, like, chill out, buddy, play it cool, like, it's not working. Anyway, but she started, he was calling her all the time, that she started having her calls screened. So
calling Dorothy.
So Paul was calling Dorothy all the time. So she stopped answering her calls and having people screen the calls for her. And so, I mean, she was his meal ticket. And more than that, she was his ticket to stay in the United States. They were both Canadian. So she had the work visa. He didn't. So if she left him, then he would lose that visa, right? Because that was his wife. So she's the one with it, not him. And no one's given him a work visa. Hefner's not doing that for him. So anyway, so around this time, this man is losing grip with reality. So he was, like I said, a hustler. So in his mind, he was hustling. He's like, I got to bring in money. I got to bring in money. I got to bring in money. So he took on another potential playmate, Patty Lowerman. And in the hopes of striking gold twice, right? You know, she was also 17 when he brought her on, and she moved in to the house that they had, but they also had another roommate. He was really into working out, so he tried to sell this workout bench that he had created, and when that didn't work out, he modified the workout bench to become a weird fucking bondage chair, and he took it to the pleasure chest in LA and tried to like, look, you can, like, look what I did.
As if they don't have enough stuff to go
like
on.
I could make more of these and you could sell these for hundreds of dollars. And they're like, no, thank you. So, I mean, like, seriously, like, he just was like, what else can I do? You know, this was the guy that did wet t-shirt contest, wet boxers contest, John Travolta lookalike contest, Farrah Fawcett lookalike contest. This guy was a promoter. And so he was like, what else? You know, just money. That's all he was thinking about. Then he called up his friend Max Baer, who played Jethro, fun fact, in Beverly Hillbillies.
Yes. I used to love that show.
Max in the documentary on 2020 is so funny. Like, the guy's a putz, you know, like, he's so funny. But this guy was his friend. Anyway, so he calls up Jethro and he says, hey, I got this great idea. What if we take guys wearing just pants with bow ties and cuffs, and that's it, dancing? He's like, what, like a gay club? He's like, no, for women. And he's like, okay. So Chippendales is born.
Oh, shit.
Yep.
I was all against Paul, but he's got some. I'm just kidding.
But yeah, having the great, as Max said, having the great idea is one thing. You got to be able to execute it.
Yeah.
You can't, you know, like, that's what he's saying. So the partners he ended up having were like, this guy's a fucknut, and they hated him. So they took his idea, kicked him out of the business venture, and Chippendales blew up, and they all became multimillionaires.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Paul got none of that. Meanwhile, poor Patty's in there going, oh my God, he was not doing well, because she was there throughout this whole thing.
Why wasn't he not like trying to get her into Playboy? I thot that was the whole reason she moved in.
She was still too young. And so, so he was training her, do this, do that, you know, like do all this. Yeah, I know. So they kick him to the curb. They make millions. Nothing's working out. Paul is getting desperate AF.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I got this wife that's not calling me back, blah, 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 blah. And he he is just, all these things are just going off, off rails. Anyway, and as we know, a desperate, controlling man is never a good starting point.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we just know something bad is going to happen. So in April, Dorothy made a brief return to California to prepare for her upcoming debut as the new Playmate of the Year and the ensuing publicity tour. And so she with still months of filming ahead in New York. So she's back home for just a little bit. And so she goes to see Paul, and on Wednesday, April 30th, nothing happens yet. So I know you're like waiting for it.
What? No,
So on Wednesday, April 30th, at a luncheon held at the Playboy Mansion, Dorothy was introduced to the gathered entertainment press as the 1980 Playmate of the Year. During the event, Hefner highlighted Dorothy's Canadian origins and the $200,000 in cash and gifts she received along with the title. So she received 2 cars, not just one, 2 cars,
nice,
a bronze bathtub.
Oh, fancy.
Weird though.
Weird, but fancy, I guess.
Anyway, and then she appeared as a guest on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. So funny fact is that Paul then wanted to sell all of those things so that he can make money because, what's yours is mine, baby, right? And the following day, Dorothy embarked on a 2-week promotional tour in Canada, surprising Peter Bogdanovich with an impromptu visit in New York during a free weekend. So, during the filming of the movie, they did begin an affair. It wasn't really well known, but there were sort of murmurings. And again, it was a close set that no one's judging. No one liked Paul anyway, but no one's judging. And it wasn't until the movie was almost wrapped anyway, that they showed up to an event together, cast and crew event, holding hands. They weren't throwing it in people's faces. But she moved from her room to his suite during the filming.
All right.
Yep. And so as the tour concluded in Vancouver, Dorothy planned to unwind with family before returning to New York. However, Paul intervened, coercing her into making personal appearances at nightclubs and pocketing those appearance fees because he's a dick. And their conflict escalated, with Dorothy proposing to give up her acting career and just return permanently to Canada with Paul. You know what? This is causing us too much conflict. I'll give it all up and the two of us can move back to Canada. What you say? And he's like, No. He's like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No. You're going to make me money. That's our lifelong bargain. Yeah, that's because she was like, Jesus, let's save the marriage then.
Side note, I just looked up bronze bathtubs and they actually look really freaking nice.
Oh, really? But
yeah, weird gift. I'm still weird, still a lot of upkeep. I'm just saying I didn't know it was a thing. That's all I'm saying. I didn't know it was a thing.
I feel like that would have to be in a mansion. I can't imagine a little house in West LA. You know what I mean? That just doesn't seem like it would fit, So, by late June of 1980, Dorothy informed Paul of their physical and financial separation. So she tried to say, hey, listen, I will go back with you. Let's save the marriage. He was like, no. And probably with the assistance of a lawyer that was also probably helping Peter, said, hey, you need to start getting your financial affairs in order. You can't trust him. And so when she returned back to New York for filming, she sent Paul a letter that said, we are now separated both physically and financially.
Oh, shit.
So now he's in trouble, right? Dorothy Stratton Enterprises does not include Paul Snider at all. And so he hires a private detective to find out if there is indeed an affair with Peter Bogdanovich. And
how does he afford a private investigator?
I don't know. He, I don't know, probably sold something. So he starts selling off whatever prizes that he does have of hers. So whatever he could, he starts selling. By mid-July, the principal photography for They All Laughed concluded, and Dorothy and Peter returned to LA. And while they she officially lived in Beverly Hills, she actually moved into his Bel Air mansion.
Okay.
So they were planning on getting married as soon as the divorce, despite just once the divorce with Paul was finalized. So on the night of July 31st, 1980, Snider, now aware of Dorothy's return to LA and living with Peter, he borrowed a handgun. Don't let anyone borrow your gun.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
There's nothing that anyone could possibly be doing that's good.
Not good. Anyway, he waited in the dark for something and it didn't happen. So he returned the gun. So like crisis averted. That is crisis averted.
But just
I know. He's ridiculous. So stupid.
Was he wearing his bejat?
Of course, every day.
Star of David during
every day. He never took that off.
Just like shining in the dark.
He probably showered with it. So around noon on Friday, August 8th, Dorothy and Paul reunited for the first time in nearly 3 months at the West LA residence. And so everybody was trying to talk her into not seeing him. B, if she's going to see him, to either take Peter or Hugh Hefner. Was like, take me, like take somebody.
Yeah.
Someone suggested she hire a bodyguard. Someone else suggested just not, like get a cop to go with you. And like, she was like, he loves me. He's not going to hurt me. He's, like whatever. So she had actually taken money, like to say, hey, I'm going to give you money. And like, I'm going to start giving you payments as a sort of
kind of like alimony?
Sort of like alimony. Like, here, like, I'm just going to give you, like, you're worried about money. Let me just give you some money and we'll work through this. Right.
Yeah.
And so she thought she could do that. They actually did find money, like 1,000 something. I'll get to it. But they did find money on her. So he tried to, declare his love for her and all that kind of stuff. And so she said, no, but let's meet later this week and we can discuss the financial settlement. And so he decided to go out and buy a firearm. This time, not borrowing one. He went to go buy one. And Patty was with him when they went to go buy this gun. And he actually got lost. It was in the valley and they got lost. He got frustrated and went back home. And then he found another one to buy and he bought that one. So many opportunities for him to change his mind. And he wasn't going to. He just wasn't going to. So he became fixated on August 9th, accompanied by the private detective he had hired. He attempted to buy a gun from a shop and was denied. He then actually tried to persuade the detective to make a purchase on his behalf. That's not going to happen. Then he tried to get one out of the valley and then got lost. And so he gave up on that. Like, seriously, you weren't supposed to get a gun, dude.
I'm almost surprised he didn't try to get Patty to get one. Or was she still not 18 or whatever at the time?
Not 18. So on August 30th, 1980, marking the second anniversary of Dorothy's initial arrival to LA. Wow. Paul procured a used 12-gauge pump-action shotgun from a local private seller. Later that evening, in a conversation with friends, Paul ominously mentioned his recent gun purchase, cryptically hinting at taking up hunting. He also made unsettling remarks regarding deceased playmates, particularly Claudia Jennings. Why isn't this a fucking red flag? Jesus. Claudia Jennings, insinuating how Playboy magazine would handle such tragic events in its pages. The following day, Thursday, August 14th, Dorothy arrived for a meeting with Snider at his rented residence in West LA. Oh.
I know.
Pay attention to me. What do you think? She had spent the morning discussing the details of their impending separation and divorce settlement with her business manager. Among Stratten's belongings, the police found $1,100 in cash on her, presumably intended as like the down payment to this financial settlement. During her morning meeting, Dorothy's manager suggested handing off negotiations. What did I say that like that for? Like I'm all proper negotiations to her lawyer so that she doesn't have to deal with Paul anymore. You know what? Like we'll take it from here. And so she's like, no. I want to maintain personal involvement. She wanted it to remain amicable. So alone in the house they once shared, Stratten and Snider hung out together. And later that evening, when Snider's roommates returned home, they noticed her car was parked outside and his bedroom door was closed. So they were like, oh, they are getting it on. They made up. They're back at it. And so they didn't want to bother the couple. Yeah. And they went about their evening. The private detective, though, was like, I haven't heard from him all day. Let me call up to the house. So he said, hey, roommates, can you go and check on him? So actually the roommates were like, you know what? It's really quiet. And they're not even like, I haven't heard the toilet flush. And Patty was like, yeah, it hasn't. Like, it's been a long time. They haven't gone to the bathroom or anything. Like, that is weird. And she's like, that was a weird thing to think about, but that's true. Like, there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
And so they went upstairs to check shortly after 11 p.m. and they discovered the lifeless bodies of Dorothy and Paul. Both had been fatally shot with his gun found underneath him. Yeah. So now what forensics found was a bloody, bloody scene. So this is from the AP. Dorothy had apparently been sodomized, though whether this occurred before or after her death is not clear, the article said. After the blast, her body was moved and there were what appeared to be bloody handprints on her buttocks and left leg. Near her head was Paul's handmade bondage rack. Loops of tape, used and unused, were lying about, and strands of long blonde hair were discovered clutched in Snider's right hand. The Detroit Free Press described on November 16th, 1980, how, quote, Stratten's blonde hair hung naturally, oddly unaffected by the violence to her countenance. Her face was shattered, and her nude body, mocking the soft, languid poses of her photographs, was in full rigor. So she had taken the 12-gauge shot to her face and her hand. She actually tried to shield herself with. Paul had taken the 12-gauge and shot himself in the head, falling on top of the gun. So at first, they weren't even sure if it was a murder-suicide or if someone had broken in and did all this. And so it wasn't until someone rolled him over or they moved him that they saw the gun, and they were like, crystal clear. They saw what happened. So in the early hours of August 15th, the private detective informed Hugh Hefner at the Playboy mansion of Dorothy's murder, prompting Hefner to notify Peter Bogdanovich. And when he told Peter, like, the line went silent and he was like, hello, 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 and didn't hear anything. So he hung up, called another line in the house, knowing where somebody was, knowing that somebody would be there to answer, and said, go and check on Peter. And so to make sure that he was okay. He had to be sedated and he was just in shock. Dorothy's mother received the devastating news at her home in Vancouver from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police later that morning. Dorothy was cremated and her remains are laid to rest in the same place that Marilyn Monroe is, in the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And her grave marker bears a poignant passage from chosen by Bogdanovich from Ernest Hemingway's novel A Farewell to Arms, which is so nice. 3 years after her untimely death, Mariel Hemingway portrayed Dorothy in the biopic Star 80. I don't know if you ever saw that movie, directed by Bob Fosse. And poor Patty Lauerman, she gave up on the whole modeling thing since she was like a part of this whole ordeal and found the bodies and all that kind of stuff. She was there for that. Playboy said that it wouldn't look proper for her to work for them. Like she had to be deposed and, go through, and just, it was already bad publicity for Playboy because it kind of, I don't know how to explain it. Like, of course this happened to her because she was a Playmate.
Oh, right.
Right. And not because like, no, this happened because
he was a piece of shit.
Right. Like
it was
this
her
isn't
fault, 100%.
Right. This is not about Hollywood. This isn't about her being a Playmate.
Yeah.
She could have been just a normal everyday actor doing normal everyday movies and never having posed in Playboy, and this would have happened. Or she could have been whatever. She could have had a really good high-paying job and he just wanted to mooch off of her. Whatever it was that she did. He was a controlling motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like just, it was bound to happen, Yeah. And so it just didn't work out. So all of that was enough to just send her backpacking and to live another life completely. She ended up having a family, has a granddaughter, and lives life in Riverside, California, happily. And she still looks just beautiful. Anyway, she's beautiful. As for Peter, he wrote a book called The Killing of the Unicorn, Dorothy Stratten, 1960 to 1980. It was a book detailing the relationship between Peter and Dorothy, and the making of They All Laughed, and then her untimely death. There's also a lot of criticism of Hugh Hefner and how Playboy and its treatment of women, which old Hef did not appreciate.
Yeah.
In the least.
Even though there's a million documentaries about it now.
I mean, sure, but this is way back when. So a critique that was featured in People magazine described the book as, quote, a sometimes provocative but relentlessly self-serving version of Stratton's life and death. Ouch. The review attributed blame for Dorothy's demise to Hefner's hedonistic philosophy and depicted him as an insensitive, petty figure. Bogdanovich's narrative emphasized a post-midnight encounter in a hot tub between Hefner and Dorothy, painting it as detrimental to her well-being while positioning himself as the sensitive counterpart. So
was anybody holding Snider responsible at all?
You know what? Good fucking point.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, I've heard them blame her for being a Playmate. I've heard them blame Hefner, but I haven't heard anyone blaming the man that actually committed the insane crime.
Typical. God. The New York Times noted that Bogdanovich's account was, quote, part tribute, part self-justification, part accusation, suggesting that perhaps he divulged more than necessary. The Chicago Tribune dismissed the book as a, quote, a shabby little shocker. I'm not running out to buy it.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. The aftermath of the book's publication was marked by legal disputes and controversies. Private investigator Mark Goldstein sued Bogdanovich for $10 million, alleging defamation in the book. Additionally, the publication of excerpts from the book in Britain's Sun newspaper led to a court case due to breach of exclusive publication rights granted to another newspaper. And in 1985, Hugh Hefner suffered a stroke, attributing part of the stress leading to it to the allegations in the book. I know. And finally, geez Louise. Ending this on a serious, like, ooh, what the fuck moment. Yeah. Ready? Yeah. Are you ready? That's in my opinion anyway. Ooh, in my opinion. So after Dorothy's death, Peter decided to continue to help Dorothy's family. Nice, right? He did that
if you tell me that he married her mother, I'm leaving now.
He did that for years. Like, oh. And then 8 years after her death, he married Dorothy's younger sister, who just turned 20. She was 12 when they met. Is that better than marrying her mother?
No.
Okay.
But still,
that is
awful.
so gross. So they stayed married for 13 years.
Wow, that's actually longer than I was thinking.
Yeah, until she filed for divorce. It just grosses me out. I'm sorry.
It's really gross. I mean, especially since he met her when she was 12.
12. And then she was 20, the same age Dorothy would have been when they got married. Did she look like
Dorothy? I mean, was that...
She's beautiful, but not...
You know what I mean? Like, was
Dorothy.
that, like, in his mind, that was, like...
I mean, she was blonde. I don't know. I have to look at... I don't know. Dorothy was
I didn't know how crazy, like, her death made him. And, like, he was envisioning her as Dorothy.
I mean, don't you think he was?
I mean, yeah. I don't know. It's disgusting.
But, ew. Right?
Yeah. I'm not justifying it. I was just asking if, like, that's what it was.
I don't know.
I think it's gross.
I just think it lacks class on his part.
That's definitely one word.
I don't even know how old he was at this point, actually. Like, honestly, I don't even know. He was older. He
had to be
older.
Way older.
Way older.
If Dorothy would have been 20 when they were getting married and then her sister was just turning 20. Like, I feel like.
I know.
He's got to be.
Ugh.
Gross.
Gross. Just ew. Anyway, that is my story.
Oh, that's sad.
But it was
interesting, but
so beautiful.
She really was.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I just kept looking at pictures and then I was like, she's naked in this one, but she's so beautiful.
Oh, I didn't see any of those on Google.
Well, just basically, you know, like wearing. I just felt like, oh, she's just not wearing a whole lot. Semi-nude.
She definitely looks like that small town, really nice, would help anybody. I mean, she just was naturally gorgeous. And that, I mean, even if she wasn't, it's still sad that happened to her.
And just the video of her.
So many people took advantage of her. Like, I feel like Peter wasn't really in it. If he wrote a book about her and then married her sister, like, I feel like he didn't actually love her.
I don't know. It's not the first time I've heard of a widower or an ex marrying the surviving family member. I've heard it before.
It's so weird for the family member. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, your dead sister was going to marry him. And
I know people like that.
Now you're marrying. I don't know.
I know people who did that from high school. But, like,
anyway,
it is weird. Like, you've bonded over the grief. And so maybe there's, like, a trauma bond.
Yeah, but you were 12.
And then she was 12. That's a whole, you're not even close in age. Yeah. It's not like you're 3 years apart. And, you know, you're helping each other through the trauma. Ugh, I don't know. It all leaves a bad taste in my mouth, honestly. In this story, especially.
Yeah.
Because it's such a drastic age difference. But then, Hugh Hefner just... Ugh. Oh, in his like comment, she says so this is Teresa Carpenter is the one that wrote the Village Voice piece. His like comment is like Hugh Hefner's like, we're so sad, whatever that's called. You know,
what a tragedy. So
the official sad. Yes, the official comment from the Hef.
She lit up a room.
He did say that. Oh no, this is Peter Bogdanovich's. I can't find whose. So here's what she said. Here's what Peter said. Dorothy Stratten was as gifted and intelligent an actress as she was beautiful. And she was very beautiful indeed, in every way imaginable, most particularly in her heart. She and I fell in love during our picture and had planned to be married as soon as her divorce was final. The loss to her mother and father, her sister and brother, to my children, to her friends, and to me is larger than we can calculate. But there is no life Dorothy's touched that has not been changed for the better through knowing her, however briefly. Dorothy looked at the world with love and believed that all people were good down deep. She was mistaken, but it is among the most generous and noble errors we can make. Beautiful.
See, that would be really beautiful and really sweet if he had married her 12-year-old sister.
Who was then 20.
Yes, but still. I feel like that totally negates anything
Totally.
else that he did.
Everything is just, that's it. Nope. That's it.
Well, that was a good story. I don't know what I'm going to do next week.
That's all right. That's all right. You say that every week, though.
I know, because I never know what I'm going to do, and probably until like the day before.
That's all right. That's always so good.
My friend sent me this weird story about a clown.
Oh, God.
And because they know I don't like it. They know I hate it. Like, I fucking hate it. I'm not really scared of clowns per se, but I hate that fucking movie. Anyways, so I don't know if I want to do it, but I might.
I mean, now you just teased it.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's enough to do a whole story. So we'll see.
We'll see.
I won't do a disappearance.
You didn't last week.
I know.
That was awful.
I know.
It was so uncomfortable. Right? I was like,
But I wanted to do something different. But
you did a
I'm
great
gonna go
job.
see Nickelback on Wednesday. So, you know, who knows? I might be a changed person after the rodeo.
Are you proud of that?
Oh, I am so proud of rodeo.
Or of Nickelback?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Okay, I won't laugh.
we just lost all of our listeners. You're welcome.
100%.
All the pressure is now off of us.
All right, everybody. Until next week, see something, say something, that whole bit.
Don't kill anybody.
Don't
if
kill
you do,
anybody.
message us. Thanks.
Maybe after, or just we won't
Yeah,
turn
don't
you
do
in.
it before. Don't do it beforehand. I don't want to know. I don't want to be an accessory. I just want the exclusive interview after.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding. Gosh.
Get out of here. All right. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.